Hello everyone, and welcome to my ranking of James Bond hot takes. Number 10, Dr. No is a top-tier Bond film. I watch every James Bond ranking I come across. Doesn't matter if it has 10 million views or 10 views, I watch them. And every ranking I've seen, and I've seen a bunch, seems to place Dr. No in either dead center or towards the bottom of their list. Excuse me, but I do believe a 60-second examination of Dr. No would not be out of line here. First of all, James Bond in Dr. No is the most James Bondy James Bond has ever been. Sean Connery was never better than right here in his first go. The performance is pure and unadulterated. The women in this movie are god tier. Even the smaller supporting roles. Don't believe me? Watch Miss Trench raise her eyebrow. Watch Miss Terrell roll over in bed as the camera pushes in. Watch and listen as the photographer lady stabs Quarrel in the face with broken glass and then says, "You rats." These are little extracts, sure, but there's so many of them. So many little moments from these characters that etch themselves into my psyche and are a part of me, a part of us. And Dr. No is among the only Bond movies that unfolds like a detective story. Why can't we see a Bond movie unfold like this anymore? The locations and sets in this movie are simplistic but effective and memorable. The film has elements of movie magic, and the space in between I find a relaxing place to be. I like this movie very much. Someday, maybe even today, I might even use the word love. Number 9, the supernatural should come back to Bond. You're saying to yourself, that's absurd, and I'm saying, if done right, it would be absurdly awesome. The only Bond movie we ever got that incorporated elements of the supernatural was Live and Let Die. And while I don't need another Rosie or J.W. Pepper, I would like to see these otherworldly fantastical ingredients woven into a Bond movie again. I'm not talking about Bond throwing Hadoukens or Bond reading the Book of the Dead to bring Tracy back to life. I'm talking about subtle suggestions of the supernatural, where interpretation may vary. Is it magic? Or is it real? Solitaire could read the future by flipping tarot cards, Baron Samedi could resurrect, voodoo rituals are happening all over the place in Live and Let Die. So what's truly going on here? I want it to remain ambiguous, but I would like it to be there at some point, in some form. You're saying they're gonna fuck that up. This is not a good idea. This is not what Ian Fleming would have wanted. You know what? For the next Bond film, I wouldn't be surprised if AI Ian Fleming showed up at the beginning of each Bond movie in R.L. Stine fashion to tell us we're about to witness a story that contains some unalivenators called guns. Now, our feature presentation, The Hildebrand Rarity, starring Tom Holland and Zooey Deschanel, along with Seth Rogen as M, Tom Green as Q, and Ice Cube as Moneypenny. You know, nothing would fucking surprise me anymore in this day and age. Number 8. Die Another Day is not Pierce Brosnan's worst Bond film. My first ever experience seeing a Bond film in the theater must have been Tomorrow Never Dies. I have fragmented memory of it, but I know it must have been the first. I loved it ever since. Then came The World Is Not Enough. My second Bond theater experience. What was going on? I hadn't a clue. Fast forward to today, and I don't care even with the clue. It's a movie that drops the ball, bends down to pick it up, and somehow slams its own head into its own dick. Sucks on it, thinking it's yours, realizing it's itself, and then continues sucking anyway. A movie drowning in its own formulaic froth instead of allowing its best ideas to come to fruition. Basically, it's a pile of shit. Then comes Die Another Day, my third Bond theater experience. And it was the best time I've ever had in a movie theater in my life. Forget about it being good or bad. Forget about the invisible car or stupid fucking wave. It was just fun. I was a kid and I was having fun. And almost 25 years later, I still have fun. The title song was awesome too, and it still is. Die Another Day is one great big stimulating video game cutscene. It's one of a kind, it's special, and I love it. Number 7. Diamonds Are Forever is the funniest fucking movie in the Bond series. We're fresh off Majesty's. Bond's wife just caught around in the crown, and in kicks the triumphant Bond theme. Guess that means we can get back to having fun again, and we do. At least I do. Diamonds Are Forever, tell me it doesn't deliver the goods. The writing is witty and humorous. The characters, all of them, absurd and memorable. Bond himself is hilarious, and he's never been played like this before or since. Blofeld is a fucking trip. Tiffany Case ain't no disgrace. Mr. Winton, Mr. Kidd, they're diabolical, and they should have been more legendary. The music in this one is pretty great too. It just comes down to, how does a Bond movie make you feel? And this one makes me feel amused. Sure, the setting kinda sucks. Yeah, it's got a shitty TV movie look. But I mean shit. If you embrace this one as a comedy, you might just move it up your list. Diamonds Are Forever is not a good movie. It's not even a good looking movie. The effects are trash. It's not a compelling narrative or interesting character study. It's not breaking new ground or shaking up the formula. It's actually in the middle of an identity crisis. But Diamonds Are Forever just has things working for it that are of a unique flavor, and I can't get enough of it. Number 6. Natalia should have been Paris in Tomorrow Never Dies. I've been back and forth with myself on this one for a long time, but I think I finally settled on how I feel about it. This is one of those alternative universe scenarios, a what if you will. What if, instead of Paris, Natalia came back into Bond's life in Tomorrow Never Dies? At the end of GoldenEye, Bond and Natalia literally looked like they were getting married. Bond even carries her off as if they are getting married. It's not like she hurt her leg or something. They should have had the ceremony right here in the field. Jack Wade could have officiated, cocktail hour by the collapsed crane, get pictures with Ice Boris. The list goes on and on. While that would have been an even better ending to GoldenEye, Bond is Bond at the end of the day. He plugs, shrugs, and bugs. He bugs out. So it makes sense that Paris, his ex-girlfriend from nowhere, is pissed that Bond clicked his heels and Peter Pan the fuck out of her life. Because that's what Bond does at the end of the day. Only he should have done it to Natalia. Off-screen. Between GoldenEye and Tomorrow Never Dies. Spare us the indignity of having to watch it. Just bring Natalia back in as the woman Bond loved and still loves and still cares about, but just sort of chucked from his life, because he is James Bond after all. Examine, or at least address, the consequences of that. The groundwork's already laid out. Why isn't Natalia in the place of Paris? Would have made perfect sense to me. Not as Carver's wife, but working for Carver. Makes sense she would have switched her job occupation after what happened at the last place she worked. So turns out Natalia was at this party where Bond shows up on one of his missions. They get reacquainted. Natalia has some info that might help Bond against Carver, and in response, Carver sends Dr. Kaufman to kill Natalia. And he succeeds. Now that would have been a tragic Bond girl death, and also one that would have worked. Think about it. Think about how much more emotionally invested we as an audience and Bond would have been had Natalia gotten flatlined in this movie. Yeah, you might say that only ends up hurting GoldenEye. You know what? I think it's worse for GoldenEye that Natalia is not in Tomorrow Never Dies, not even mentioned. Because if she's not, then where the hell is she? And who the hell is this? Paris? Did she come before or after Natalia? Her presence here and history with Bond makes Natalia feel like she was never that relevant in the first place. Isn't that way more tragic than Natalia and Bond loving one more time before she gets iced? This is supposed to be a character from Bond's past that we care about. So make it a character from Bond's past that we care about. Number 5. Timothy Dalton should have gotten a third Bond film, but not a fourth. Half of what I just said is not a hot take. Timothy Dalton should have gotten a third Bond film, and everyone with a mind, body, and soul agrees with that. But I think his run as Bond should have ended right there. No fourth movie, Tim. Not in my alternative universe of imagination and wonder. And it's for your own good, sir. A fourth Bond film starring Dalton would have been terrible. It's always a comedy by the quad entry, and this guy is not a comedy Bond. He's about as funny as a cheese wheel rolling down a hill, and you're like, what's funny about that? Yeah, that's my point. Timothy Dalton is great at comedy, he's just not a comedy Bond. As this is another alternative universe take, it's the one I'd hope more than any other that I'd be wrong about, but we'll never know. Number 4. Henry Cavill should have been cast as James Bond instead of Daniel Craig. This was a rebooted version of the character, Bond's beginnings. Cavill would have only been 23 at the start of filming, whereas Craig was 38. How much more appropriate would it have been to watch Cavill age into the character rather than watch Craig age out? Casting Henry Cavill would have charted a course for the last 4 Bond films to maybe have actually been good instead of dumb. In Casino Royale, James Bond had just received his 00, so why the fuck is he acting like Grandpa Moses in Skyfall? Only busting successful action sprees when the plot calls for him to implausibly escape something. Oh, Craig's a bad shot. That's weird, I thought he just became a 00, but now he's over the hill. I'm sorry, over the what? Bond was the most capable and brutish we've ever seen in his first 2 runs, which pretty much act as one big movie. And then by his 3rd, it's a turd. He's incompetent. He's incompetent and getting too old. Well, maybe had you cast someone young to start with, you wouldn't be having this problem. And you're saying, there's not a problem. Skyfall is awesome. No, it fucking sucks. I could make that its own entry for this list, but I'm sick of talking about why I hate Skyfall. I bash it in every video I've ever done on Bond, so if you want to know why, just go watch those. Back to Henry Cavill. He only became more handsome and talented as his acting career progressed. And I would easily sacrifice Craig's performance in Casino Royale to roll the dice with Cavill. He would have been fantastic. He would have been more believable as a new 00. The 5 Bond films of his tenure would have been like the movie Boyhood, only it's called Manhood, because there's an actual satisfactory progression we could have witnessed over the course of his tenure. How special and unique would that have been? But no, instead, they got Blonde Bond, who thank God nailed it on his first run. Craig is excellent here, no doubt, but he's not excellent for the long haul. He didn't even like or appreciate playing this character. You could say, well, neither did Connery. Yeah, well, Connery was terrible in only one movie before he was great again. Craig was deplorable from Skyfall onward. The more time goes on, the more I wish he was never Bond. Henry Cavill will likely never see this role now, and at this point, I don't think he should. That opportunity came and went, and that's a shame. Number 3. From Russia with Love is mostly forgettable. I didn't say From Russia with Love is bad. I said it's mostly forgettable. I don't much like the first 20 minutes or the last 20 minutes of From Russia with Love. Why? Because Bond's not even in the first 20, and the last 20 is just a rip of North by Northwest, with meaningless tacked-on boat chases. The plot in between, it's sort of convoluted. I mean, Bond himself doesn't even have much to say or do, and for much of the movie's runtime, nothing feels like it's progressing. What's weird is that I remember other characters in this movie better than Bond himself. Red Grant, Rosa Klebb, Number 1. All these fuckos stick out in my mind. I even like the Bond girl Tatiana very much. Bond's ally, Old Bay, or Karen Bay, whatever his fucking name is, he's warm and friendly, and I like him a lot too. I like that he doesn't turn out to be a traitor, like so many later Bond movies would have had him be. And the train sequence near the second half of the movie is amongst the best sequences in any James Bond film ever. It's not that I don't like From Russia with Love, I just struggle to retain it. I know From Russia with Love is many people's number 1 favorite. Hey man, that's great. I'm never disenchanted to watch it. It's actually sort of a gift that I struggle to retain this movie, because when I do watch it, I feel like I haven't really seen it before. And so, it's something I look forward to experiencing every time I go through the series. And you know how they always say, you might forget what people say to you, but you'll never forget how they made you feel? It's kind of like the case with From Russia with Love. I kind of forget what it says to me, but I know how it makes me feel, and it immerses me into the Bond-verse. And that's a place I'm happy to be. Number 2. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a mind virus. Straight off the bat, I don't like this movie. And let me get this part out of the way. If you genuinely do like this movie, more power to you, my friend. But I'm convinced that many people who claim to like it are full of shit. If your job was to convince someone who's never seen a Bond film to come around on liking a Bond film, which of these 25 Bond films would you show them? If your answer is this one, you failed. Your friend is not going to like this fucking movie. Growing up, my dad, my cousins, my friends, everyone who watched Bond movies knew this was the bad one, and they didn't pretend like it was some lost mystical treasure just waiting to be discovered. It was a turd then, it's a turd now. It was a failed experiment, and thank God Lazenby's run ended here, because if it didn't, you could kiss this series goodbye 2 movies later. I don't hate this movie. In fact, it's more of a curiosity than anything. I still retain hope I'll find something about it I like, but all it boils down to, really, is just that it's strange, and not in a good way. I'm not going to manufacture passion for something that bores me just because every 5th comment praises this thing. I tried, I'll continue to try, and I'll continue to solidify for myself why this movie ranks as the 2nd worst Bond film of the entire bunch. Now I'm going to get some lunch while I think about what my number 1 is. Number 1. Arumov's fate should have played out differently. In one of GoldenEye's most pivotal scenes, Bond faces a dilemma: the girl or the mission. This is the only scene in the entire movie where all the villains in Bond are all together, along with Natalia, the Bond girl. So all 5 principal characters are here in this scene, here in this little room, on this little train. And it's on this little choo-choo that Bond's defining character traits are put to the ultimate test: the girl or the mission. The 2 things Bond is most known for: girls and missions, right? So which would he choose? Well, GoldenEye is about to squeeze that answer out of itself when it opts instead for a deus ex machina. The girl or the mission? Bond bluffs. Kill her. She means nothing to me. And so Alec gives the signal, and Arumov adjusts himself slightly before executing Natalia, just long enough for Bond, with full auto giggle switch, blast the ever-loving fucking shit out of Arumov, somehow not hitting Natalia, and you know the rest. They escape. Now that's what an audience screening would have wanted. Hell, it's what I would have wanted, almost entirely. But I'd ask for one more thing. And that's for General Arumov not to be shot like this. He's actually one of the most interesting and grounded Bond villains we've ever had. He's first introduced as the main villain of this movie, then over the course of the film, he falls back to secondary villain, then falls back to tertiary villain, then he falls over, out of fucking frame because Bond shot him. Yeah, you could say this is actually pretty poetic, because he was seeking to be king shit of Russia, stepping on everyone's heads to do it, and then unceremoniously being used by a bigger villain and cast out of this movie like a cum tissue, after being one of the most interesting villains of the series. Arumov is one of those ambitious villains that took a chance, took a risk, and it didn't pay off, and now he's in a world of shit. He's a desperate villain. He's kind of like the pre-Lashif. Bond poses a question to Arumov that makes him question his allegiance. Maybe in this moment Bond could have convinced Arumov not to shoot Natalia. They were onto something here with this. Bond planting these little seeds in Arumov's head. I'm not saying he should have been redeemed, I'm just saying he should have went against Alec for this shit. Because Arumov should know Alec is going to betray him. In some sort of fucking moment of rage, Arumov should have turned the gun on Alec and fired at him, and that's how we progress. And of course he'd miss, because he's been getting shit-faced for the past 6 scenes. I'm just trying to say I wanted another 5 minutes from the guy. I think it would actually have been some really great bits of dialogue and interaction if you had a Rumoff still alive while Bond is trying to laser the fuck out of this train. Like, would Bond just straight up execute a Rumoff after a Rumoff just did the thing that saved their lives? I mean, a Rumoff still ain't no friend to these two. So how does this unfold from here? Are you happy with how it went and you wouldn't change anything? Should a Rumoff been left on the train to blow up? Should he have bonked his head trying to get out the bottom hatch and been knocked out as the whole fucking thing explodes? And Bond and Natalia just start making out with his dead body in the back? I don't know.